is Natalie Topa, and I'm here in Adjumani district in northern Uganda at the site of a design project, a resilience design project that is helping to regenerate this landscape for food, water security for this community, but at the same time, it's helping to keep dry the roads that were part of the infrastructure project that was being implemented by the Danish Refugee Council and funded by Danita. When I was with the Danish Refugee Council and the proposal for this project came across my desk, it had a road construction, valley tank construction, spring box protection, and woodlots, but I really wanted to integrate concepts of regenerative thinking. So we switched that to road water harvesting, roads with road water harvesting, spring box protection into spring recharge, and then woodlots into food forests. And then valley tanks into contour dams and integrated systems that have swales as well as dams. I think it's a bit windy, so I'll have to speak up. So here's my former colleague, Andrew Ebbage. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Natalie.
So you'll may recognize Andrew from the video we did on spring recharge.
Yeah.
That was in Terekeko.
Terego district.
Okay, Terego district. So basically, Andrew is a civil engineer, and here is a very simple rural road that is you can find all across the East African region, and oftentimes you'll have what are called miter drains, which are little, offshoots off of the main road to take water into just off of the road, and oftentimes they end off contour, and what that means is that you're sending water off of the road in a concentrated pinch point, which becomes incisive and erosive and can lead to gullies. In fact, on this site, the landowner here saw that there was a gully forming from a miter drain that had been created. So when this project came along to do rural infrastructure and road construction here, he actually refused to have more miter drains done on his land. So miter drains were done lower down in the landscape. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So basically, what we're going to do is walk you really quickly through the system to show how water off of the road and in this catchment was put through a system of large bioswales that not only recharged a spring, but that spring runoff charges a dam, and the dam is also charged by the bioswales. So we're here with a delegation from the World Food Program. I'm now with WFP as the Global Advisor for Regenerative Resilience, and I'm pushing, dragging people out in the hot baking sun, taking them on the tours of these weird designs. And by the way, Andrew was the civil engineer who was responsible for the design of this site after he had attended trainings with me and Warren Brush. And yesterday we made some videos in Nebi district of projects that we had done. So here, I'm gonna slow down here for a second. Here's this catchment. This water sheets off in this direction, and so what Andrew and the team did here was to create a bioswale on contour that now has become this sort of swampy area. There's a new livelihood here with sun-dried brick making because now people have the water to form the bricks. So this is the bioswale here that you can see is marshy, filled with water. There's frogs and dragonflies and all kinds of people in here. And it cuts across here. And actually the road here acts as the spillway, okay? So you have this bioswale on contour, but the road here acts as the spillway and the water continues in that direction. And then here, what's really amazing to see is that we have this bioswale that continues for about 300 meters in that direction. So if you follow this around, it's 300 meters, and then it has a little bit of a diversion ditch that flows into the bioswale. But here, what you can see is that this farmer has done a nursery. He's growing tons of eggplant. The entire berm is covered in tomatoes and lots of mulch, and he's got seedlings. And here he's using the bank of the swale as a little nursery for cassava stems. So that's what's happening here. I lost Andrew. Not sure where he went. Just a second. Hey, Andrew. Okay, so basically you have this large 300-meter swale on this side. And the team here with Andrew had also done an entire field of half moons. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So you tried to do a bit of a food forest?
We planted many species to hope for them to spring and also regenerate this area. But by the time we were planting, it was too dry. None of these flowers grew up.
But the half moons were there, and they also helped to harvest water.
Yes, yes. We had a lot of boomerang saffron fish fell around here.
Yeah. That's amazing, because what has resulted from that, all the water harvested from that bioswale, plus all of the moonscaping of the half moons or smile berms, is that all that water has infiltrated, filtered through this soil, and now comes out as this spring. So this is now, I mean, there was an existing spring eye, which is there, but during the project, you know, the initial assignment was just to do a spring box for spring protection without the recharge. So what I had written in was spring recharge, so that we can soak and hydrate all this land and create a biological plumbing system. And now the community here has free flowing water that is running 24 hours a day.
24 hours.
There's no tap.
7 days a week. 24 hours, 7 days a week.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And now what about the runoff?
Now from here, the runoff goes to another series of bioswale coming from the road. Then it leads water into the dam, into a contour dam.
Let's go see.
Yeah, let's.
So, you know, there are dried up springs all throughout East Africa, and doing these types of designs, how are you? Doing these types of designs, you know, reinstates healthy hydrology. And not only that, I also want to mention, you know, I think, Andrew, you were commenting on the health of the cows.
Yes.
And some people may attribute that to the fact that they now have year-round water, right? They have full-on water availability. But it's not only that. When these bioswales are hydrating the landscape, they're feeding soil organisms. That moisture means, you know, moist soil means cool soil. Cool soil means active soil life and organisms, which means that grazed land becomes more viable, grasses, and that whole nutrient cycle. Now the soil and landscape is better able to inhale carbon, which is the building block of life here. So not only do the cows have more water because of the water harvesting, but they also have moisture security that leads to more food. So, you know, in a world where global warming is a big problem, global cooling should be the project. That's our assignment. And global cooling happens through the evapotranspiration by doing hydrative design. We're hydrating this land so it stays cool. And then, of course, the more grass cover, the more cover crops, the more tree shade, the more microclimate you have, the more canopy, and again, the more coolness. So that spring, the excess water from the spring, as well as the water that spills out from the initial bioswale and the catchment of the area between the bioswales, now feeds another bioswale, which is here, which is also being taken advantage of as another farming and gardening opportunity here by this community, by another farmer or gardener. And these are livelihoods and sources of nutrition that did not exist here before these structures were in place. So this is a bioswale that again, goes all the way out to the road. And this is directly fed by one of the miter drains from the road. So road water is harvested into this bioswale. This catchment, this whole catchment is pouring water into this bioswale. And the excess runoff, from the spring is also pouring water here. So what do we have here, Andrew? Here's another contour dam. It has two. So once again, I want to point out, when we do contour dams with bioswales, normally if we just make a dam, you only have catchment from the area up above, meaning water from above will flow in and, help to fill the dam. But when we create these arms on contour, and these are on both sides, actually you can go see the spillway, we're increasing the catchment because water, not only from the catchment immediately above, but all the water above the swale now will feed into it. This is on the same elevation. This is the same contour line that passes all on the back of the contour dam to the bioswale. It's windy, so I'm trying to speak loudly so it can pierce through the wind. So this is used for community purposes, for the livestock watering, for food production and gardening, for bathing and recreation. Yeah, and there's also on the backside aloes, sisal being planted, and you can start to see that there's vegetation filling in on the bank, and it's getting windy, so I have to shout. People doing laundry. So this is for domestic use, for the livestock watering. They're multi-purpose. I don't know if we have fish in this one. Not yet. But I think you said there was 176 or 63 dams that were done. And many of those they were stocked with fingerlings of which fish?
Mudfish.
Were they all mudfish, or there's other types?
Other types, but generally around here there's a lot of mudfish.
Okay, so, which is also good eating.
Yeah.
So here's the spillway of this system, and this is a level sill spillway, which means it's also level on contour, and it's been armored with these stones. So water exits here. Now what I want to point out is, and I'm breathing heavily, I'm asthmatic and we've been running around like crazy. So you can have a bermless swale. What? Yes, shocking. So you can have a swale that has no berm, only the trench. So imagine if this is your grazing land or your cropland, you can even have a 100-meter swale with no berm that just means that the entire swale is a spillway. And when the water overflows, provided it's all on level contour, that water will gently sheet flow out of the swale and evenly hydrate the entire field, okay? It's great to have a spillway when you want to have strategic exit points. So for example, if you have a house over there or a garden or, something that you want to protect from a direct water flow, then you could, intentionally, actively design for water to exit this point, be picked up at another point, exit another point. But if you just have communal land that's a grazing area, you can also do bermless swales that just one after another will sheet flow off and evenly hydrate the landscape, okay? So if you have another system there though, that you want to, whether it's like, let's say a food forest or whatever, that you want a big wash of water that's also a bit gentle, because what we're trying to do here is prevent that incisive channeling of water that creates erosion in gullies, then you can do that. So the point of design is that it's bespoke, it's customized, there's no rule of thumb. It just has to suit your purposes, the functions, and it should feed and catalyze the natural cycles. So I don't know. I mean, in terms of just you want to spend a few seconds just sort of with final thoughts on food security, water security, and the impact that these types of projects have?
Surely the design here has really created a very big impact on this land. Initially, when we came here, this land was a wasteland. There was virtually no production taking place here. But today, when we came back, we saw very many farmers up there now with tomatoes, with eggplants. So they are becoming very resilient, and they're doing really amazing. Up on the other side, there's a pumping system which has been set up, picking water from the dam, putting it up on that reservoir, then supplying by gravity on that garden. So the entire place is turning out to be a food production zone. Animals are doing well. There's a lot of water here. I think we've created a prison for water, actually. And I'm really very happy for this design.
And what about the maintenance on the road?
The district has reported that they have had a very high reduction in the demand for maintenance on the road, because the water that used to destroy the road has been removed from that road now to the production system here at this design. So the district is quite happy about the design. They're quite very vocal about mentioning the advantages they're getting from this design, from the road water harvesting design.
That's great. So as I always say, what we've done is literally taken the destructive force of water and transformed it into a productive force. So taking water from destruction to production and turning floods into food. Because had we not removed this water from the road system, that will accumulate into larger flows of water downstream and accumulate into larger flood events. And so that is where we really have to be mindful about making the distinction between climate change and ecological degradation, because oftentimes climate change just means bad design. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.
All right, great job, by the way.
Okay.